I want to tell you a story. It's a story that happened in 1834. A man was placed in a cage. I call him a man, but notwithstanding, he was classified back then as a slave. He was placed in a cage and left to die. It happened in Jamaica. And the story was captured by someone who was walking through on a pleasant day through the woods. He was enjoying the sunshine and he was having a wonderful time. He thought he was, until he came to a point that he wondered what he had smelt. And he looked around and noticed some birds perched on an object. And I want you to understand that this narrative is coming from this historical article.
In order for me to get the full version of the story, I was able to use AI to solicit information. As you can see, this page would be very difficult for me to read. And I was able to get the information by, of course, allowing AI to cipher the information and then correlate it with other sources. Hence, I was able to give you the full account as outlined by this individual. Now, let's get back to the story.
He was walking on that day, and of course, he came upon that spot. There, he walked along. And as I said before, he noticed the birds. And when he saw the birds perched in that area, and I know it was not the normal birds that we have, pretty birds, it was crows. We call them back in Jamaica John Crow. And he fired a shot. And when he fired a shot, they scattered. And the birds scattered, and he realized that there was something sinister about it. He went, he looked, he heard a faint sound. Help me. It was, of course, a slave. He looked around again, and as the birds were away, they still were around, waiting for him to leave. And he noticed as the birds depart, the insects took over the mingled body. He looked. The man, which was classified as a slave back then, had his eyes already picked out by the birds. And of course, his cheeks were already showing the bones in the face. His mouth, of course, was parched. And as he looked around, he realized that there was no escape. He wondered for a second, should I kill this man to take him out of his misery? He was not that sort of person. The man called out for water, need some water. And he saw a shell that was nearby. He gathered some water, gave the man, and as the man drank, he said, "Thank you." The man asked him, and I want to make it, he was a slave, classified back then, to take his life, to put him out of his misery. But in his heart, he could not. He could not do that. And of course, he walked away to the house because he was traveling a couple miles on foot to the place where they're having the feast. As he went up, he was told that the man that he saw, or the slave, as they called him back then, was placed there because of one thing. He had killed the overseer. Yes, he killed the overseer. He would become a spectacle for others to see, to understand that they would not try such a thing to come up. According to them, it was justified because it was a sign that they had to make of him to ensure that others understood. They did not find anything that was wrong with their actions. But remember, a man was placed in a cage and he was left to die. He was left to die. The man was placed in a cage, he was left there to die. And of course, they saw nothing wrong with it. As this man wrote this book, as the man gave his story, he had a reflection. He said that he was happy that England had found redemption. I don't know what redemption they found because obviously they still continue to inherit, and because today they still inherit the benefits of slavery and the legacy of slavery. You check out my video on that. He said they had found a good conscience and heart to understand that the system that they had implemented was wrong. Today, we still have that problem in our society. And he goes down to position England as a good country now that they have ended slavery. Yes, but remember, slavery was the system designed to ensure that everyone was kept in line. Some people have said this could never happen to me, but I tell you this, that's far from the truth. The reality is, it was a system designed, of course, to season you. Men who held their heads up high in Africa, when they were seasoned, they walked on the plantations with their heads down. Some things that they did cannot be talked about on YouTube or any media forum, but in closed rooms, because they will say that we're making them uncomfortable. Yes, I went there. So this man was placed in that place to die because he wanted to be free. Do you justify murder in this case? Or should the enslaved continue to be enslaved and not fight for their freedom? Without that fight, I might not have had the liberty I have today. And that's all for now. So let's remember the man who died in that cage or waited to die because he did resist slavery. His name is not known, but let us remember that he was not the only man to die that way. I'm out. Thanks for listening.